So I don't really play Battlefield all that much lately because, quite frankly, I'm kind of bored out of my mind of 2042 because there's just not a whole lot to it. And also, the mouse input bug is still in the game and I just can't do it. Aiming in Battlefield 2042 feels so freaking bad compared to any other first-person shooter, and I just can't do it. But I figured I would see what they put in the update 4.1, which is releasing tomorrow, May 19th. So I'm going to cover the patch notes quickly, go through what I think are the most important points. So I think the biggest piece of news from this update 4.1 blog post is that the next update scheduled to release is Season 1, and that is set for release in early June. But as always, there can be delays, and they say they'll be back with a full overview and update notes closer to its release. I wish they would start saying what will be included in terms of content for Season 1, because it's a live service game and we haven't seen a single piece of content in like 6 months now. And the content in the base Battlefield game was pretty small, to say the least. But anyways, moving on with the patch notes. There's a couple of changes to aim assist. They also delivered improvements that help reduce input lag. Now I'd have to imagine this is across the board, but it's not specified here. They made a couple of changes to gadgets, so hitting enemies with EMP effects now correctly triggers player disrupted XP. They removed placement delay for deployable gadgets, so they now are pinned instantly, so great. That means Boris can just run up and put a turret down that just starts shooting you as soon as he clicks the button to put it down, so that's cool. Deployable gadgets are now easier to deploy, so should have easier time, I would imagine, putting it on like slanted surfaces or stuff like that. The insertion beacon, the size has been increased so it's easier to see, and it's now visible from further away. Now, can you also destroy it all the time, or is there still the bug that prevents you from destroying it when it's inside like a bush or something like that? Not quite sure. As for modes, so they are removing a 128 player version of Breakthrough because they felt that 128 players doesn't really fit Breakthrough all that well. There's too much chaos, so they're only keeping 128 player Conquest and then 64 player Conquest and 64 player Breakthrough. And further changes, so Breakthrough 64 for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X, S now have set map sizes for specific maps. So Discarded Manifest, Orbital, Kaleidoscope will play the 128 player version on 64 player Breakthrough, and Hourglass, Breakaway, Renewal will play the 64 player version. So 64 players across all of these maps, but some maps are bigger and some maps are smaller. I'm curious to see how this will affect the overall flow. Then again, there's not a whole lot of flow in 2042. But I digress. Changes to specialists. So Angel will no longer be able to grant armor plates via his supply bag. So that means he will only be able to give armor to teammates that he revives, and his resupply bag will only give ammo. So that's a good thing. Less people running around with armor, I guess, unless more people choose the armor plates. Honestly, they should just remove armor altogether. It doesn't make sense in this type of game. But moving on, Boris. Spotting via the SG-36 sentry gun now highlights spotted players with a red dot, and spotted enemies are now also visible to friendlies. Yay, more passive spotting for everybody. This change boggles my mind. Nobody really likes the turret. Well, at least not from what I can see. I constantly see people complaining about it, myself included, so not quite sure about this change. They did, however, nerf it somewhat, so the sentry gun will no longer track players behind walls, and the overall damage and health for it has been reduced, so its RPM from 450 to 250. They reduced its health from 200 to 150, and a couple of other changes to timing, so lock-on time increased by 0.3 seconds, target forget time reduced, target lock-on range reduced, and reload speed increased. For Dozer, bashing with the ballistic shield while inside smoke should now always deal damage. And Irish, his fortification system recharge rate reduced from 25 seconds to 20 seconds. So moving on to weapons. Quite a few changes here. They mentioned that in Update 4.0, they introduced an unintended change to the behavior of some weapons via incorrect values on their damage tables. Not quite sure if this is in reference to the sweet spot mechanic for the SFAR or something, or the SVK. So they say in this update we're restoring performance to its intended design, and you should feel an overall improvement to weapon performance. The impact of recoil affecting attachments has been lowered, while base weapon recoil has been improved to compensate. This means weapon without attachments now handle better. So overall, you shouldn't really see that much of a difference with the attachments, but you should see more of a difference with a base weapon. Bolt action sniper breath control now lasts a max of 5 seconds, with an added 5-second penalty if used entirely. Underbarrel attachments no longer affect weapon deploy speed. Overall horizontal recoil for DMRs has been reduced. Sidearms are now faster to deploy. For the AC-42, they increased the distance damage drop-off at higher ranges. For the AK-24, they removed the semi-auto fire mode. Not quite sure. I would imagine it's to try and balance it, because it really was like the end-all weapon in the assault rifle category, in my opinion. Probably one of the better guns to use because you have so much versatility with it. So really not sure here. I preferred the semi-auto mode to the burst fire mode, but that is neither here nor there. For the 50 cal, so they improved its effectiveness against vehicles, and they added an additional damage multiplier versus tanked tracks. For the PKP-BP, they increased the vertical recoil and added a new horizontal recoil profile, so obviously it was still very strong. For the SFAR, they improved the damage at short to medium range. Taking down an enemy now requires 5 instead of 4 bullets while at 20 meters, and they decreased the SFAR GL distance damage drop-off. For the SVK, they reduced the horizontal recoil for follow-up shots. They increased the SVK damage drop-off past 40 meters, and the SVK's high-power rounds damage lowered past 150 meters, so taking down an enemy now requires 3 instead of 2 bullets. They also made some changes to the maps, like adjusting sectors and adjusting amount of vehicles you can have depending on what side of the fight you're on, defenders or attackers, specifically for breakthrough. Pretty uninteresting, honestly. You're really gonna play and see how it plays out. For the vehicles, so the MAV is now part of the transport vehicle category, and the M5C Bolt, its missile launcher no longer deals unintentional increased damage to air vehicles, and the M5C Bolt is now part of the armored vehicle category. So that change was announced like 2 months ago, I think, and it's just coming out now. Curious to see how this is going to affect the overall flow of the game again, because if somebody chooses to use a bolt instead of a wildcat to deal with air vehicles, then you're pretty much screwed and you have no defense against air vehicles. So yeah, not a whole lot to look forward to, and I don't really think this is going to make me jump back in. There's just not that much there. But anyways, let me know what you think about these changes in the comment section down below. Are you going back into Battlefield 2042? Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.